Hey everybody, how's it going? Yeah, so it's nice, kind of a little bit of a heavy topic for me. And I wanted to do this because I have had some positive and some negative experiences in the world of engineering. And I've had a lot of people ask me questions or, give me suggestions. And a lot of people are a little less open about things that have happened to them on their job. And I'm just always open about everything. And I just figured, instead of answering all these individual DM questions, I would just do a video kind of documenting my experience. This idea came from a friend of mine who we were messaging in the DM as well. And she was like, yeah, I'm sure lots of people would hear about your experience, especially as an African-American female in engineering. And obviously with my statuses, for those of you who are my friends on Facebook, you've seen, kind of things I've been going through. So I just wanted to talk about it a little bit. Another thing about me, I don't embarrass really easily. I'm pretty much silly and goofy. I'm not really embarrassed by anything that's happened to me in my career. I don't feel like people are going to judge me. And if they do, I don't really care, because at the end of the day, my happiness is what I have to live with for the rest of my life. So that is what's most important to me. So I'm trying to I want to do this without rambling. So I kind of made a little, well, you can't see it. It's just a huge glare. I kind of made a little outline so that I don't just go on tangents, because I can definitely go on tangents. But also natural hair tonight. I'm still trying different things, and we're just going to leave it out in the fro for a little bit before I put a different wig on. And we got to talk about my hair too. That's actually part of my story with working. So, okay, for those of you who are just getting to know me or just added me on Facebook or don't know anything about me, I'm Shalonda Turner. I go by Shasie, is my nickname. And I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, originally. All my family is still in Pittsburgh, so I'm here in Houston. It's just me and my kitties and my friends, but all my family's still up north. And in high school, junior, senior year, you start thinking about what you want to do for school. So I originally was going to be a business major. I loved accounting. I know this just sounds so weird. I loved accounting, and I just don't seem like the person who would be an accountant. So I was like, maybe I want to start my own business. So I went to school to be a business major. I applied to schools to become a business major. And senior year, I had AP chemistry class. So I've always liked the sciences, but I had bio and all that good stuff before I got to AP chemistry, and then I had general chemistry. But I got to AP chemistry, and I really loved it. But I didn't want to really work in a lab, so I didn't want to be a chemist. So I started looking at other options of what I could do with chemistry, and I stumbled upon chemical engineering. And I'll be honest, I didn't really understand what it really meant to be a chemical engineer. I just knew they dealt with things in chemistry and they engineered some things, and I knew they got paid. At the time, I don't know what the ratios are now, but at the time, chemical engineering was the highest paid engineering discipline when I was making my decisions to pick which one. And that's not why I picked it, but I was just like, oh, that's cool. I like chemistry, because there's mechanical engineering, there's civil engineering, electrical engineering. Now there's all these new ones, petroleum engineering, there's nuclear. There's just so many different options you can do. And subsets, systems engineering, industrial engineering. So there's so many. But at the time, the big four were electrical, mechanical, civil, and chemical. So I picked chemical because I liked chemistry, but I had already been accepted into Bucknell University for business. So I had applied to business and was accepted into their school of business. And then I wanted to change my career. So that was a thing in and of itself. So I couldn't just change my career or my path at Bucknell and just say hey, I no longer want to do business. I had to actually meet prerequisites to transfer into the School of Engineering. So I started off, freshman year, but I had to take their calculus course, Engineering 101, and get a B or above in those courses before they would let me transfer into the School of Engineering. I guess, there obviously were different requirements when you applied to the School of Engineering in high school. So I did that. And I loved what I did in college. I will admit there were a couple times in college I wasn't sure I wanted to continue with engineering. And it's ironic because I kind of took the opposite path. Most people go from engineering, they transfer out of engineering into a different major. And I transferred from business into engineering. So I went the weird path. I went the opposite. But I liked it. A couple times I didn't want to do it, but then I got an internship at this company called Air Products. I had 3 internships with them over the summer, and it just really made me realize, some of the stuff I'm doing in college, I may not necessarily do when I graduate. And so there's all this opportunity. So, get the degree and then figure out what you can do with it. So I really wasn't into the process engineering part of it, but I did even though I said I didn't want to be in the lab, I liked being in the R&D lab for one of my internships. To make a long story short, I graduated from Bucknell 2006. I was the first African-American female to graduate in chemical engineering in 30 or 40 years. I think probably 30 years. And that is not a slight to any of the African-American females who tried before me. I obviously went in 2000, and you can imagine just how much different going to school, basically in all school, was in 2000 versus anyone who had tried to go in like the 60s or 70s. Like, I had lots of people were willing to help me. I didn't feel intimidated. I didn't feel any different about being Black at Bucknell University in engineering. And the dean of engineering, she was really close with us, myself and another girl named Christina. She was like one of the only female African-American mechanical engineers. We were like the two African-American females in like the whole school of engineering, the whole 4 years we were there. So she kind of took us under her wing. And we were actually like the only engineering members of NSBE, National Society of Black Engineers. Everybody else in NSBE wasn't an engineer. We were the only two. But I digress. So I graduated, and that was a huge accomplishment to me to graduate with 3.66 in engineering. I knew I could do it. So I started off, I got hired into the company that I interned with, and that was a really good thing because I accidentally put on, like, I don't recommend this. I put all my eggs in one basket. I only applied to air products when I was graduating from Bucknell. I just assumed, I would get it because I had the internships. And I don't recommend that. I recommend you checking out all of your options, but I just thought it'd be the easiest route to go. And I think that's maybe where I made my first mistake. So I think I should have took the time to see what other type of companies were out there that I could use my chemical engineering degree with. I felt comfortable with Air Products, and I had 3 summer internships with them. I knew their system. I knew the company basically in and out by that point. I was like, I'm not going to have a lot of coming up to do. So I just only want to work for Air Products. And I limited myself. I'm not even sure if you guys know what chemical engineering is because it took me a little bit to figure it out. If you think about a chemist in the lab, a chemist will like formulate different things. It could be, makeup products or medicines and things like that. They actually form a formula, or they're working on these vaccines and stuff like that. And then so they come up with something that they want to produce. They do trials and stuff in the lab, the chemist does. And then the chemical engineer works with them to find a way to make it on large scale. And this is a very simplified explanation of what chemical engineering is. I'm just breaking it down. So let's say Bayer, they created a formula to create an aspirin, but like they can't produce the amount of aspirin that needs to be in the stores for the whole world in a little lab, it can't happen. So chemical engineers, we take their formulas and large scale it, and we mass produce it, and we use unit operations like reactors and distillation columns and tons of things with physics, and it depends, like solids, materials. Anyway, I'm going too far into it, but just imagine we take whatever they do in the lab and we upscale it. And it's the same thing basically in oil and gas and everything. The oil, gas is upstream, and then downstream for me, what industry I was in was plastics and things like that. And we use byproducts of that. So I could have looked like there were pharmaceutical. I knew was an option, but at the time I didn't want to do pharmaceuticals because I had a very negative view of pharmaceuticals, and I thought they were just pill pushers, and they didn't really want to help heal people. They just wanted to make money from pills. Then there was food industry. Like I could have went to Kraft. I could have went to beer. I could have went to Budweiser. They take engineers. There's consumer products. I could have worked for Johnson & Johnson, SC. What is it? SC Johnson, I think is the other one. But, Johnson & Johnson and the Tide and all that stuff, that's another option too. But no, I went into basically what I like to call the specialty chemicals industry. So I went to like a chemical plant, and that's basically where I started with Air Products. I got hired in Air Products. They had a cool program. It's a CDP program where you do an assignment for 1 year in 3 different locations, and then you roll off into a more permanent position, which was a really great thing because you didn't get to get pigeonholed right when you started, so you could pick out different things. So I started off, I had an internship at Mooresville, Pennsylvania, electronic specialty materials plant outside of Pennsylvania. No, it's in Pennsylvania, but really close to New Jersey. So Mooresville, PA. This is when I lived outside of Philly. Then I went to Texas. That was my first stint in Texas was in 2007. I came to Texas to work at our nitrogen, our TDA plant here in, right off of 225. That's where all the plants are. I worked there for a year. And then I rolled into what I really love, pipeline project engineering. So I rolled into that my 3rd year at Air Products. So I had 2 first years of process production engineering experience. Really didn't care for it. I didn't really like dealing with the fires at the plant, dealing with quality assurance, doing simulations on why quality wasn't great with ammonia and stuff like that. But projects, I was like, man, project engineering, this is my speed. basically I'm a little bossy. So I like to tell people what to do. I like to delegate, and I like to interact with people, and products just have me doing all of that. So I started in pipeline projects at Air Products, and I did that for about 5 or so years. So then I had some issues come up, and I would say my first issues at Air Products, I would say out of all the companies that I've worked with, Air Products is probably the one I would say is like 100% my fault for not working out. I had gone through some negativity in my personal life near my end time there at Air Products, and I stopped showing up to work. So, I mean, at the end of the day, that's on me, right? So you learn from it, you move on. So my time at Air Products was done. So then I had a little gap, and then I started at a company called Konica North America. And I wasn't going to say the companies in this, but I just like, who cares? And this is probably where I had the most issues with my career in engineering. And it's sad because I start off so well. Like, I feel like all of my engineering ventures start off so well. Every time I get a new job in engineering, I'm like, I learned from the last time. We're going to do this differently. And then something happens. But before I go to further what happened with Konica, I want to take a segue here and talk about personalities in your career real quick. I also found out late there was something called personality types. We didn't really talk about it in school. It was at Air Products where we did the Myers-Briggs test when I found out I was an ENFP. And in one of those classes at Air Products, they were like, typically ENFPs are not your engineers. They're your creative types. They're in the arts or TV or just something. And I was like, that's interesting. I'm an ENFP, but that's not to say I can't do engineering. It's just to say typically ENFPs do not go into engineering. So if you want to you should really take a Myers-Briggs test. I don't care if you're in college or you're trying to figure out what career you want to take, figure out your personality type ahead of time. I feel like it's one of the biggest tips I can tell you is because trying to force yourself, your personality to work in a career that doesn't work with your type, it's stressful as hell. And I have more learnings on this as I go on because I took another class at Konica that realized like I'm killing myself trying to be a personality type that is not me. So I think find a way to take Myers-Briggs, take as many as possible, really. Take Myers-Briggs test, take Insights. Insights is my favorite one. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I took that at my management and leadership course at the University of Houston, Clear Lake. That one was so on point. It told me I'm a sunshine yellow in a world of cool blues. Engineers are typically cool blues, and I'm a sunshine yellow. So this is going to lead to explaining why I've had so many issues, I think, in engineering. And there's another one called DISC profile. DISC is typically free. You can find it online. DISC is what you would call it. And I was an I. Take one of the three or all three of them if you can. So I started off at Konica with a male manager and a sub manager. So like there was a manager of our project engineering department, and then I had a manager beneath him that was my direct manager. And it was so great. We started off so well. And then I started so I went from pipeline project engineering into capital projects, which is different world. So I wasn't 100% up to speed on how to do plant projects because I had never done that before. And my manager at the time didn't seem to be very like, I would get like, you should know this. I'm like, how should I know this? I've never ever worked with I-beams before in my life. And plus my background is chemical engineering, not mechanical, not civil structural. Why would I know this? So we started to like a little butt heads a little bit, but then the main manager of that department got moved to another position. Then we brought in a female, and I was super excited to have a female boss. I was like, yeah, like there's hardly any females in engineering. This is great. I got somebody to look up to. It's going to be like this, like, man. And I didn't have any issues with the other manager. He was actually one of my best managers I ever had, the manager of the department. But I was just excited to have a female. And then, Lord, it dived. Boom. Like we went to lunch together. We talked about how we were going to be forward. And then I'm just trying to think of where it really fell off. So my problem with engineering is it tends to be a little bit conservative. Now I'm telling you my experience. Other engineers may have totally different experiences. This is my truth. This is my experience. So how I perceive engineering. So don't, like, if you think like what I'm saying is not true, like go have your own experience. Go get an engineering degree and then do it and see if it's different. That's fine. But we just started not getting along. We got along as friends. Like I'm telling you, like me and her, I was a fashion blogger and she had her own makeup line. She formulated her own makeup line outside of the company, and we would see each other at fashion events. I went to her house one year for Christmas, brought my parents. She gave me Coco. The reason I have Coco today is because of her. Like, my cat died when I was at Conica, and she gave me Coco as a Secret Santa gift. And, I always love her for that, because Coco's been such a joy in my life. And I love her from a personal standpoint. But I think what happened is, maybe from my standpoint, maybe I took a little too much advantage of the fact that we were friends, too. And because, like, I'm going to tell you my truth. My truth isn't that everybody else has done me wrong. The truth is that, like, I swore things done wrong to me, but also I made mistakes as well. So I'm not a morning person. I stay up late. So Hanukkah, I had a few issues with arriving on time. I didn't miss days. I just, would show up a little late. If I late, 5-10 minutes, so I got wrote up a couple times for being late. So I was like, okay, but nothing on my actual performance. So I would actually get really good performance reviews, because I would actually get things done. But I just found when I was doing it, I would procrastinate a little bit. Like, there were actual tasks in the projects that I would be like, man, I don't want to do this. Or I'd get assigned something, but I really don't. I'm going to wait to the very last minute to do this. And I'm trying to figure out why am I wanting to wait till last minute, and everybody else is just jumping into everything that they get. Like, they're just jumping into it, like, really excited. Like, and I'm just like, okay. So to make a long story short, I talk loud. I'm a loud talker. I also talk. I'm bubbly. So I spend a lot of my time at work talking to other people. And for me, that doesn't stop my work, because I can multitask. I'm a person who can have a full-blown conversation with you and still be sending out emails and reports and documenting things. I'm like, yeah. Did you watch Vampire Diaries the other night? Okay. So I used to get told, like, you're talking too much. We're going to move you to another area. I literally got moved like I was like a student in school. I got moved to sit next to somebody else who probably wouldn't be as talkative with me, because I became really good friends with my coworkers, and I would talk to them about stuff. And then I guess they might have been complaining, but not to me, that I was distracting them because I was talking too much. So then I understood that. I'm a sunshine yellow. Everybody else is a blue. They're very analytical. They want to sit and they want to think. Not that they don't want to have fun, but they're kind of more focused on getting stuff done. And I'm like, oh, I need a break. Like, okay, I just did this spreadsheet for like 10 hours. I need a break. Let's talk about something fun. And I kind of got that half of it out of me by joining some of the subcommittees within Hanukkah. So, I kind of teamed up with doing the Christmas door decorations and things like that. Any part of that company that I could use my creative outlets, I was trying to channel that into there, and it just still wasn't working. I still was struggling to really be into my work. Not that I couldn't do it, because I could do it. The motivation to do it and the passion to do it, it just wasn't there. And there was another coworker in there who eventually became my manager. We had never gotten along from the get-go. Like, when he was my colleague, we never got along. And so when he became my boss, I was just like, this is not a good look. Because he, again, always said, well, he was one of the people who was like, well, you're loud and I can hear you from across the thing, and just always telling me about the stuff. And then my manager, my female manager, was telling me things like, you look better with your natural hair. And so I got called into her office sometimes to talk about my wigs. I was even told one time that, like, your chest, because you know how sometimes females, like, we talk one-on-one, we kind of keep it real. You're the type of person who walks into a room and people are going to notice you because, you got big girls, and, and I was just like, well, are we really talking about my chest? And she's like, you're going to take attention. And so and that's fine. But she, at the same time, she was like being kind of negative. She was being constructive at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense. The boob thing was weird, but she was just like, I just don't see if you can move forward if you keep wearing the hair color wigs. Like, I really want you to do, like, maybe the brown wigs, maybe your natural hair more. And then when I would change a wig up at work, there'd always be comments. Like, it was kind of like a thing around Hanukkah. People like, oh, what hair is Shalonda having today? And stuff like that. Just constant focus on my freaking hair. And I'm just like, what the fuck does this have to do? What does this have to do with my actual work? Like, I'm getting my work done. What are we talking about here? If you're not going to promote me because of a wig, then I'm not changing. And this is what I'm talking about when I talk about non-conforming. I could not conform to that type of crap. I'm not about to change myself to make other people in engineering feel okay. So again, this is where I feel like I started to be treated wrong. Like, I was passed up on things just because I'm a bubbly and I talk loud and I wore wigs and blah, blah. I have big boobs, whatever. I don't even know. That's one of the reasons I do that. So don't take that to heart. I'm just saying, but I'm just like, what the hell? And then, so that boss got moved to another position again. So I went to like 5,000 bosses at Conica. And then the coworker I didn't get along with became my boss. And he was ultra conservative, just like, if you're 2 minutes late, because I had really worked on my time by this point. Like I was, making sure I was getting to work on time. Occasionally I'd be like 5 minutes late. And I'm not exaggerating. Like I'd be like 5 minutes late because I wanted to make sure I was on time. And it was just, didn't work out. So one time, this is where the end of the end happened. The boss I had before started to get a little picky about everybody's lunchtime. Apparently you were taking longer than an hour to go to lunch. And this is when I felt like we were children again. I was like, are we children where we really have to really clock in and out in an hour when we all work overtime and all this stuff? Like, you're really concerned about our lunch hour. And so we had to actually sign out on a board the time we left to go to lunch and then sign in when we came back in. It was literally getting ridiculous. And I also started not getting along with my male coworkers near the end as well. I just felt like any opinion I had, they tried to make me feel stupid. So whenever we were talking about non-engineering stuff, like just other things, and maybe we just shouldn't have been talking about anything else, but they would just try to come for me and be like, that's stupid. And I'm like, no, you're stupid. Don't talk to me that way. It was just starting to fall off because I'm not going to not have my opinions because you don't agree with it. And you're not going to make me feel stupid because my opinion's different than yours. So get the hell out of here. So I started to have deteriorations with my coworkers in my group. We started having to sign in and out for lunch. Now, I worked in the middle of bum heck nowhere. So it took about 15 or 20 minutes just to get to a lunch spot. So you really couldn't go out to eat because if you took 20 minutes to get there, sat down, order food, and you need 20 minutes to get home, so basically it was fast food or pack. And so people started to get really annoyed. The whole group was getting really annoyed about this lunch thing. And so one day I wanted to go to a fashion event after work. So I came in a half an hour earlier so I could leave a half an hour earlier. And prior to this, we never had to tell anybody if we came in half an hour earlier to leave a half an hour earlier, or if we took a shorter lunch, we could just leave, because it was fine. And so the next day I come in, a week later, they didn't even, next day I'm getting called into HR. I can't even tell you how many times I spent in HR at Conica. It was my second home. I'd always get called, Shalana, can you come here a minute? I'm like, what the hell is it now? I'm just trying to do my work. Can you leave me the hell alone? So I got called in there to be written up for leaving work early and not telling my boss. And I was like, we've never had to tell you before. You can see when we scan in and scan out. And they start tracking our time too, when we scan it. I said, I came in at 7:30. You were here when I came in at 7:30. You saw me in at 7:30. I took a half an hour lunch so that I could leave an hour earlier. But because I didn't tell him, he was trying to write me up. And since I had told you guys before, I had been written up previously, this is my third write-up. So this time I was going on to a, what do you call it? Okay, I had a 3-day dismissal, not a dismissal, what do you call it? 3 days work, no, 3-day paid. Oh my God, I can't think of what the word I'm looking for. I had to not work for 3 days. It was supposed to be unpaid, but they ended up paying me anyway. I was supposed to take 3 days unpaid for leaving a half an hour earlier. And I just snapped. I snapped in HR. This manager slept in his office half the time. The rest of us were doing work. So what if I talk to him? I snapped, cursed him out in front of HR. Basically, could hear it down the whole hall. It was terrible, really unprofessional of me. But 5-something years, I just snapped. So I still had to take the 3 days. And then I was talking to HR kind of while I'm there, and she was like, well, you kind of belittled your manager a little bit. And if there's any reason we can let you go, it's because of what happened in HR. And I was like, sorry, there's something terribly in my eye during my important story. Probably a cat hair. And so, yeah, I came in on Monday. I kind of expected it. I had actually packed up all my stuff that I had at home, my FRCs and everything in a bag, took them to when I came back to work on Monday, because they had put me on leave on Wednesday. So I had the whole weekend. I was like, probably on Monday, they're not going to keep me. And, that's what happened. Monday, I went into work. Yeah, well, so-and-so decided to let you go. The manager I had cursed out. And so I was like, that's not unexpected. And I felt so relieved. Honestly, it was the weight of the world was lifted off of me. And then right then is when I was like, man, this engineering thing isn't working out for me. So during my time at Conica, I went to a management and leadership course at University of Houston Clear Lake, where I took the insights profile. And I seriously learned that you can drain your color energy your physical energy by working a job that's not for your personality type. So again, like I was saying earlier, a lot of engineers are blue and very analytical and can probably sit for 8 hours or so crunching numbers and not feel drained. And they don't need a break. They don't need to have conversations. They can be a little bit more antisocial because that's them. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But when there's somebody like me, I cannot sit for 8 hours crunching numbers. I don't make decisions based on analytics. I'm not going to conform. I'm going to have my creative personality. So every day I would come home stressed. I had stomach pains. Sunday night was like the worst night of my life because I had to go back to work on Monday. And I just didn't know like what to do with my, like I couldn't sleep. I was increasing my anxiety pills and everything. And I just didn't know what was going on. I was like, the work isn't hard. Like I'm putting in some pumps and stuff somewhere. Okay. It's not that the work is hard. I just don't want to do it. It drains me. Like I'm literally crying at night on Sundays, like tears. I called my parents and I was just like, I cannot do this anymore. So when I was like, because I'm a yellow, I'm not supposed to fucking be here. And there's lots of yellows that do engineering. They do it well, and I don't, good for them. It's not working. So I was like, okay, I got let go from Air Products. I got let go from Konica. This is 2 jobs. Something's not working here. Let me just get out of engineering. But of course, you know, I like engineering money, and the fastest way for me to get another job was to get back into engineering. So I got another job in engineering, and this probably would have been my dream job had we not gotten laid off. So just terrible. I started working for Parsons, and it was great. My whole team was like me. They were all like kind of extroverted, bubbly engineers. It was the best experience ever. I was there from February 1st to like March 13th, and it was just going so well. And then they called us in and said, you know, the client canceled our project, so we're basically gonna let everybody go within 2 weeks. So then I was out of job again. So I was just like, okay, that maybe not be a sign, but because we were laid off, not let go. So I was like, so maybe I could try again. So after that is where I ended up at INEOS. So now trust me, I've had 3 years of engineering jobs, and I'm still thinking like maybe this isn't for me. But let me give it one more try, because technically Parsons wasn't like a third try because we got laid off. So that didn't really count to me. I'm like, let me give it a third freaking try, like a real try. And again, I started off so well at INEOS Star Relations. I got along with the team, my boss, another female, just like that, just perfect. First year, really great. She was like, decorate your office, have so much fun, be creative. We love your personality. We love the fact that you're willing to help everybody. And so when I got hired into that position, they talked about how everybody wears many hats and does what they need to do to get the project moving, even if it's not in their role. So I came into this job thinking that I'm supposed to be able to do everything to help everybody move. So this is why this particular ending of a job is particularly pisses me off, because I really 1,000% don't think I did anything wrong to justify it. Things started going downhill in this experience. I noticed one time I put a document in SharePoint, and I got in trouble for that because I'm not the document controller. And I was like, okay. Well, I was just trying to be helpful, and because Melinda wasn't here, so I put the document and said, no, stay in your swim lane. Don't do that. So I was like, okay. So I was like, so what happened to the mini hat things? And so that's the kind of things I started getting in trouble for. Again, I had learned I was on time. I never missed a day. I forced myself to have motivation. And I actually had more motivation to do this work because I was on a mega project and I only had one project to work on. Meanwhile, at Konica and Air Products, I had multiple projects at one time to work on. And it was kind of stressed me out. Like I would have 30 projects, 15 in the field, 5 that I'm still trying to get started and estimated, like 5 more like in closeout. And so like it just was like really stressful. I had one project to work with on any of us. It wasn't like we kind of had some slow periods. So I was like, this is great. This is perfect speed for me. And but I guess I started crossing into other people's swim lanes. So I just started getting nitpicked about, you don't need to do that. The mechanical engineer needs to do that. And so I really tried. Like I understand like some project managers are different and some project managers really want a certain way. So here I am making a list of things I can and cannot do to try to like stick to the boundaries that she has. Because I talked to some other people there who are project managers and they're like, we're not like that. This would not be a thing, but that's how she is. And that's fine. She's my boss. I really need to kind of do what my boss says. And I tried so hard. I would try everything. And it just, no matter how much I see that I checked off the list, she'd still find something like, why did you write that in the email? I'm like, well, because that's blah, blah, blah. Then she's like, well, how come you put this many number of soil samples? And I was like, this is why I gave the number of soil samples. And I previously told you why I was giving you this soil sample, and you didn't like that explanation when I gave it. You only liked it when the environmental reps gave you that explanation. So I don't know why you didn't believe me when I said it. Just everything I did, there was a question of why. But I was like, but we already talked about this. Or she gave me a direction to do something and I followed it. And then she was like, I would have thought you would have did it this way. And I was like, but I didn't. I did it this way. And we still got the same result. So she put me on a PIP in September. The PIP was about, I don't follow delegation of authority, and I don't follow delegation of authority. And she thought my quality of work wasn't great. There was nothing wrong with my quality work. It just wasn't what she wanted to do. I did quality work. Now, there are a couple of times I've made some mistakes because nobody's perfect. It's also 2020. Like I admit in my last video I did when I was talking about my job that I started making mistakes like near the end here because I was getting so stressed out about what I was and wasn't doing right. So I would forget other things. I'm like, okay, make sure this word is spelled checked right. Like I was getting down to the T of like, if one word was spelled wrong, I was getting like, why did you spell check this? I was like, I did spell check it. I reread it 100 times. I missed one word. I was like, well, that's what we mean by quality. I had one word misspelled on something. And I'm just like, this is fucking ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I'm stressed out. And I started talking to everybody there. I started talking to one of my friends that was a VP, other colleagues, just to like, what am I doing wrong? And, unfortunately, because I didn't try to make a switch before the PIP, I couldn't switch during the PIP. I couldn't switch to a new position because I guess when you're on a PIP, they own you. I had never been on a PIP in my life. Like I told you guys, I had been written up for time before, but never really on my performance. And I've always had good reviews. I've been promoted. I got the project engineer too. I was on my way to senior project engineer. I feel like I've always done quality work. The other people on the project team were fine with my work. They liked that I was helping them. And it was just me and my boss. Again, me and my boss there, me and my boss at Konica, and really wasn't an issue at Air Products. But I had issues with female bosses more than I had with my male bosses. And that's just sad to me because I'm like, we're supposed to be getting along together, ladies. Like we're supposed to be supporting each other. So to make a long story short, every week we would review my PIP and she'd find something wrong. I'm like, but I did this by this date. Or I told you why this date isn't going to work. So on a PIP, you can't miss a date. And there were some things that were missed, but I would think no fault of my own because this person is not getting me the information. It was just too much. So before the PIP was over, I got called in. Like this is probably the thing that pissed me off the most is that the day that she decided to like let me go, she was joking around with me, and I had gone to a doctor's appointment earlier that day, and she texted me to ask me where I was, even though Wednesday I sent her an email saying, hey, I have to get blood work in the morning. I'll be at the doctor's. So she knew where I was. So something told me up there. Now I also did a little test. I submitted my vacation request for the end of the year, which she normally approves immediately. She didn't approve it. So Thursday she texted me, hey, are you still coming in today? I was like, yeah, I'm at Quest. I'm getting my blood work done. She's like, oh, okay, I'm just being a mama bear, just checking on where you're at. So I get to work the whole day. I have a waste management plan to get done. I'm knocking it out. I have my headphones on. I'm like doing everything, just doing everything what I thought was right. And at 4 fucking o'clock, because I leave at 4:30 because I work 8 to 4:30 there. At 4 o'clock, she's like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? And I was like, okay. So I go into the conference room, and of course HR is there. I'm like, well, this isn't unexpected. This is why I really wasn't upset, because she just kept nitpicking every little thing I did. So I was like, she wants somebody that works exactly like her and does exactly what she says. So I have been all day. Like, if you're going to let me go at you could have told me before I even came into work. I could have stayed home. And she was joking with me the whole day. Like we always kind of joke with each other, not joking, like making fun of, but just kind of like she saw me with my headphones on. She's like, oh, you're in the groove, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, like I'm knocking this waste management plan out. This girl knew she was going to fire me later that day. So you could have just let me go then. You didn't have to so that's kind of more what pissed me off. Not actually getting let go, was just that BS fakeness. But don't be fake with me. Do not be fake with me. I hate when people are fake with me. I will not play with fakeness. So I remained calm, got my stuff, and left. But because I was like, you can't have another curse out. Nah, you can't do that again. You can't, because I really wanted to. Because I was like, that's some BS. I was like, so what happened to the PIP? Like, she was like, well, I've been coaching you, and it just doesn't seem to be working. I was like, well, I can move to another group, because when they were like, well, the other groups aren't ready to hire yet. And I actually had talked to them about moving to the project engineering group, but they weren't going to be hiring until February of all the economy stuff. So Thursday I just leave, not working anymore. And I'm just like, this is it. I'm done. I am done with engineering. I am so done. So this is my 4th job. 4 times it did not work out. 3 let go, 1 laid off. And I'm just like, okay, something's not working here. And I don't want to say, I'm not trying to say like it's them and not me, because I clearly admitted to you where I was struggling. Like, I don't want to do the work. I'm not passionate about it. So I was like, this can't keep going on. I can't keep getting excited, thinking it's going to work out, and then something like, and this last one really pissed me off, because now I have to explain to other people that I was let go because I put too much information in an email, or because I spelled a word wrong, or because I put a document in SharePoint when she wanted the document controller to put. You know how stupid that sounds to say I was let go because I did too much, or I just like, okay, the Conica one, I was like, I cursed out my boss. Okay, of course, that's not going to work out. This one, I'm literally having to explain it, and it's just stupid. And then, so, I had to do some self-care time for myself. I had to I was really okay after being let go from Style Revolution. But then I had to make sure I was okay. You know how sometimes like you can maybe tell yourself you're okay, but you're not really, because you still want to deal with the real emotions and everything. So I took time to really sit and think, like, are you really okay? Like, this is the 4th time. This is the 4th time your job in engineering hasn't worked since you graduated in 2006, 14 years. Are you really okay? And I am. I really am. And what annoys me the most is kind of what I get from other people is the projection of, you're an engineer. Why would you leave that? You made so much money. Why? Or like, girl, you were holding it down for us. You were like the only African-American female in engineering. You really shouldn't quit. Like, I'm not killing myself for y'all. I'm not killing myself for y'all. You just need to understand that. I have so much more integrity and self-esteem to not be treated like that. And she let me go, but I have been looking at jobs since she put me on that PIP in September. I was leaving. I was either going to transfer or I was leaving. I'm not going to sit around and have somebody micromanage me for 3 more years on a project. And I'm not about to kill myself to be a representation for African Americans in STEM. No, I want to be happy. For like the first time in my life, I want to do something that I love and I'm passionate about and I'm a sunshine yellow about. And so I'm not going to take the projection of, I tell everybody all the time I want to leave engineering, and I get that response. I'm just like, where's Shalonda, we're sorry to hear that engineering didn't work out. What are you doing now? What are you looking into? Like, where's the support on that end? I get it from a lot of you. So I'm not saying that. There's just a few people that are always like, I don't know why you would leave engineering. So I was making close to like 120 a year. I was making 6 figures, lived by myself. I had a lot of extra discretionary income. Sure, I was making money. I was having fun. I didn't really think about anything I spent. I had savings and stuff. Did I have to think about gas? No. Did I have to think about $20 meals whenever I wanted, like my double meals at what do you call it? Epicure Cafe? No, I didn't worry about it. Will I have to worry about it now? Yes. And is that a problem for me? No. I can adjust for happiness. And if that's what it takes for me to be happy, is take a pay cut and do something I love, that is what it is. Now, a lot of people like to work in a field they don't love and use their career passions on the side. I did that for 14 years. I did the blogging on the side. I did design on the side. I did a lot of creative outlets on the side. It still wasn't enough. You know why? Because I was so emotionally drained from forcing myself to be a blue when I'm a yellow that I couldn't even enjoy the activities I was doing. Like Sunday night is supposed to be, I'm stressed out and have anxiety. So I've decided I want to switch. I want to take the things I'm passionate about and make that my career and be happy. And trust me, I'm not so naive to think that just because you change your passion and career that 100% everything's going to work out. You're never going to have any issues at work anymore. But at least I can be in a field that I want to be in. At least I can hopefully wake up and be like, I'm excited about the work I'm about to do. And you guys have been so motivating to me for that. Like, you guys have just been boosting me up. Like all the comments I hear about my live, that you like, this is your niche, Shalonda. Like, you see my designs, you guys, this is what you do. This is what you should do, Shalonda. Like, this is your wheelhouse. And ironically, when I was an intern at Air Products, I had some of my intern friends tell me, like, we don't see you in engineering. We see you like doing something bigger than that. And I'm not knocking engineering. Engineering is a great career. Okay. And if you can have the mindset to do engineering and follow it, there's nothing wrong with having a corporate job. That's also something that I want to talk about too, is like, I kind of get really annoyed when people diss having a corporate job so much. It really works for some people. Not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur, just like not everybody is meant to work in corporate America. There's a niche for everybody. And if everybody was doing the same thing, this society couldn't run. So we really need to stop making people feel bad who want to stay in corporate America and work the 9 to 5 and have a secure 401k and everything. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing, absolutely nothing. And if you want to have your own business and be a creative on the side, there's nothing wrong with that either. Do it. So my point is that, like, I'm ready to do something I love. Now, where am I at now? You might be wondering where I'm at now. So I'm single. I have no kids. I really don't have a lot of things forcing me to do anything, to be honest. When she put me on the PIP, so I had learned from my Conica incident to like really save. I have to admit, I'm not that great with finances. I like to spend, I'm a shopper. But I learned from that incident, save in case this happens again, be prepared, especially with 2020. Because even before I was having issues with her, it could have been anything to make me lose my job. Tons of people lost this job that wasn't about like their boss being nitpicky. Just they lost their job because of the economy. So you just never know what can happen to you. So you should always have your emergency savings and stuff ready. So I was prepared financially. So now what do? Do I try to pick up another job in engineering? Just because I do have some other things I want to pay for, but I'm like, I don't really want to go into engineering. How do I do a career change but make it fast? Because I don't really want to spend another 4 to 5 years in school learning something new to do a career change. So what do I do? So basically the month of November, I've just kind of been like, just willy-nilly, just kind of think about all my options. So I think I want to go into interior design, and I've been researching different ways to do that. Like, do I need to go back to school? Do I have to go to a 4-year program or a 2-year program? Can I work full-time and go back to school part-time? Can I just get an online certificate and that's fine, or intern at a company and do that? Or do I have to move and go to FITM and get like an accredited like interior design degree and let's pay more money for schooling? Because let me tell you something, Bucknell is not cheap. When I was going to Bucknell, it was $36,000 a year to go there. And it's somewhere in the 50s or something now. So I can't even imagine my kids are not going to know I went to Bucknell. Mommy, where'd you go to school? Yeah, the school burned down. Like some parents want to have their kids go to the same school as theirs. No, you don't want to do that. You'll be paying for that for forever. Now, you get the same great education. Like a lot of my friends went to state school. They went to Penn State, got a great education, way cheaper. And so you can get a great education without going to an almost Ivy League out the wazoo school. And I am still applying to engineering jobs. Now, let me explain that. I know that sounds counterintuitive to what I've just talked about, how I don't want to be an engineer. But 2020 really proved to me that I miss my family. Being here, like I told you in the beginning of this whole thing, that I am here by myself. So my family is all up north. So when 2020 hit, I didn't have anybody. I only had my cats. And even if they would have been here, I wouldn't have been able to see them anyway, just because of the quarantine. But at least maybe I could have social distance with them, or drove by, or just something where I could see them more often than a Zoom call. I couldn't do that because I'm not flying and they're not flying. And, so we haven't seen each other all year. So I was like, and my parents are getting a little older. They're super healthy, like I brought up before, but I still want to just be closer to home. So the fastest way for me to pay for moving back home and just picking up a new life in Pittsburgh, I think, is to, it is, Penn State's expensive too. I'm not sure who wrote that because it doesn't show me your name. But yeah, so I hear Penn State's expensive too. So yeah, but just know you can get a good education without spending. You don't have to go to one of those super, super expensive schools. You can get a great education from like a state school or a community college and just be fine. So getting another job in engineering will help me move back home. So I am applying to engineering jobs, but mostly in Pennsylvania, Philly, Boston, Baltimore. There's anything that can get me back to the Northeast. So that's one avenue too. And I admit, almost every time I submit an application to that, I cringed. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go into engineering, even if it's like just for 2 months. I don't want to do it. But like, I have been living on a 6-figure income and I'm kind of used to that a little bit now, but I definitely want to get back to Pennsylvania. So I'm just trying to figure that out. So whatever works for me. So if I end up back in engineering, it is not going to be my full path because I have already made the decision that it does not work. So I would like to do contract engineering where I get maybe a job for 1 or 2 years as a temp engineer. And then I could pay for schooling. That's another reason. I was like, oh, if I go back into project engineering, I'll have money to use to like pay if I have to go back to school to do my career change. So there's many, many reasons, but just know that I think I'm like finally decided after 4 jobs, 4 attempts at trying to make engineering work for me that it is not for me. And I will admit, one of my engineering friends said it may not be that engineering isn't for you. It may be the industry you were in with your engineering. So I've basically been oil and gas / specialty chemicals. And I told you guys there's other avenues you can get into. Beauty products. How fun would that be? I'd be like perfect at like formulating stuff in beauty industry. I'm still not really into pharmaceuticals. Don't really want to deal with any of that. Consumer goods, food. Like it could have just been the conservative oil and gas industry and living in Texas. But we'll see. I'm applying to all types of different engineering jobs up north. The problem is up north, it's a different industry than it is down here. Like the South is a lot oil and gas. There is fracking and stuff in Pennsylvania, but it's a lot more construction, highway, and like food. And so for me, my experience is, I don't know why I'm holding my comb. For me, my experience is a chemical plants. So that experience doesn't translate to these other industries, but being a project engineer does, because projects are pretty much the same no matter what industry you're in. Interior design will still be projects. There's not a single thing. There's almost not a single career you have where you don't work on a project. You might not have a PMP certification, but you're still doing a project. So if somebody gives me a residential interior design project, there's still a budget, there's still a schedule, they're still dealing with vendors, they're still getting approvals and things, permits and everything done. So still that stuff I can translate to a new career. So I'm like, okay, so maybe it's not so much engineering, but so much engineering in oil and gas. So then, to me, I feel like the world is my oyster at this point. I'm not concerned. I really don't want other people to be concerned. I don't want anybody to feel bad for me because I don't feel bad for me. I'm super excited about what this means for me. I don't need other people's projections of what my life should be put on me. I think other people sometimes see, like I was saying earlier, that I was an engineer and that makes them happy because I was an African-American female engineer and they want me to do that for them. But what about for me? Like, what do I need? I will always advocate for females in STEM. I will always advocate for African-Americans in STEM. Again, I'm not knocking engineering as a career. I think it's great. And the more females you can get in there, the better, the more African-Americans, but the more minorities, period, because we're just underrepresented. And I've gone through blogging this whole 14 years. And most of the time, the women bloggers are married to male engineers. And I was one of the weird ones that was the blogger and the engineer. And I would love to see more of that, where it's more of the women holding those careers. Not that what they were doing was wrong, but I think a lot of women don't see themselves that they can go into STEM or be an engineer. And they're just as intelligent as I am. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. So this is my truth. This is my story, y'all. I just wanted to share with you because, again, I'm an open book. I don't really care that much about other people's opinions when it comes to like things that I've done in my decisions. I know everybody's gone through something like this, and people who say that they haven't are just probably lying. Whether it's in engineering or something, there's probably been some job that didn't work out for you. I don't care if it was at McDonald's or freaking Google. There's sometimes that something didn't work out for you and you had to make a plan. So that's where I'm at right now. So thank you guys for tuning in. It looks like I had a lot of people looking, so I really appreciate it. I love y'all. And again, you feel free to share this video. I want it to be shared. I want my story to get out there. I want people to know that, again, I'm going to round up my tips. My tips is to find your personality test, do career tests too. And don't think just because a career test says you shouldn't do something that you can't do it. Again, my career test said I couldn't be an engineer. Couldn't. It didn't list engineer anywhere on any of the career tests I've taken, but I did do it for 14 years. And I would like to think pretty much successfully, minus, these few things individually. So just because your personality test or your career test may say this isn't for you, that doesn't mean you can't still do it. If you really want to do it, do it. Like, and at the end of the day, what the personality test tells you is what you lead with. We all can hit all of the personality tests at one point, depending on whatever the situation is. So I lead with sunshine yellow. I lead with being bubbly and creative and talkative, and I'll go into extroverted. But there's sometimes I could be a blue. Like there were times I had to be blue for my blog when I had to crunch the numbers for taxes and figure out my payments for going on trips and things like that. Like I had to like really buckle down. So you're still using all the different types, but you lead with one. So just because they say you can't do one career doesn't mean you can't, but it is probably going to be less stressful for you and easier for you if you find a career that matches your personality type, because you will feel drained doing a career that doesn't. That's what I felt like the last 14 years. Okay, guys. Wow. Dang. Oh my gosh. I talked for 53 freaking minutes. So I love y'all. I'm going to go freaking 53 minutes. I'm going to go. Thank you for listening to my spiel. Love y'all. Bye.